Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. The Liberty Bowl was originally supposed to be a battle between West Virginia and Tennessee. But now, thanks to COVID-19, it's a battle between West Virginia and Army. A 9-2 Army team, winners of the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy, that should never have been left out of a bowl game to begin with. Certainly a more deserving team, in my opinion. Unfortunately, that is the problem with college football today, but this is an opportunity for the Black Knights to make a statement, to show why they deserve to be in the postseason, and this is certainly going to be a very, very fun game, a very close game down in Memphis. So many big storylines going into this one, guys. I mean, if you love defense, if you love run games, this is going to be the game for you. Both teams sporting great defenses, both teams sporting great run games. You look at West Virginia, they're making their first bowl game under Neil Brown. Just his second year at the helm out in Morgantown, and here we are, 5-4 Mountaineers team making the Liberty Bowl. Army, under Jeff Monken, who's done a phenomenal job. They're looking for their third 10-win season in the last 4 years. Unbelievable. Unbelievable job he has done at West Point. The Black Knights on the verge of history yet again in Memphis. This also marking the second straight Liberty Bowl between a Big 12 team and a military academy. Last year, an absolute thriller between Kansas State and Navy. We will be extremely lucky if we get a game similar to that down in Memphis this time around. So let's take a look at the offenses here. Let's take a look at West Virginia. Let's take a look at Army. Very different offenses, but in a way, relatively similar. You look at West Virginia. Their offense has improved drastically in year 2 under Neil Brown. I mean, it's improved so much, they're not even recognizable. And that, to me, all starts with their quarterback in Jarrett Doege. The guy that started the final 3 games for West Virginia last year. Neil Brown liked him enough that he gave him the full-time job this year, and I would say it's paid off in a big way. Doege's thrown for over 2,400 yards this year, 13 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. So he takes great care of the football. He's not the best quarterback in the Big 12. He's not the most exciting. He's not the flashiest, but he's consistent. He's consistent, and he's getting the job done. He's efficient, and he's leading an offense that's averaging 26.8 points per game, and he's averaging 277.2 passing yards per game. Really can't ask for anything better than that. But the key in this one, guys, is while Doege is huge, no doubt in my mind, he's going to be a major reason why West Virginia either wins or loses this game. You got to look at the run game for the Mountaineers. Letty Brown, he to me is the X factor in this one. Guy has rushed for over 900 yards, 945 yards this year, and 9 touchdowns. The Mountaineers are averaging 145.9 rushing yards per game, nearly double what they had last year. They were only averaging around 73 rushing yards per game in 2019, one of the worst marks in the country. They've now nearly doubled that. A major reason why they're 5-4, a major reason why they've been able to hang in a good amount of these Big 12 games, a major reason why they're in the Liberty Bowl right now. You look at Army. We know all about the Black Knights. We know all about the offense that Jeff Monken runs at West Point. They're a triple option team. So difficult to stop, yet you know what's coming, and it's still so hard to stop. Black Knights are averaging 281.3 rushing yards per game. Tyler is the leader of this team right now, assuming he plays. He had 502 rushing yards on the year, but was banged up in that season finale against Air Force. So the question will be whether he gets to play in this Liberty Bowl or not. We believe that he will, but if not, you've got a very capable backup, Christian Anderson, who was actually the starter at the beginning of the year. The leading passer for the Black Knights, 158 yards, a whopping 158 passing yards, also 401 rushing yards. And then you've got Jacoby Buchanan as well in at running back, 474 yards and 6 touchdowns on the year. This Army offense, again, you know what's coming at you every single time, yet it's so difficult to stop. It's a beautiful thing about Army and Air Force and Navy is they run the same offense every single year, and yet these opposing defenses can't figure out how to do it because they're so physical up front. And West Virginia has to be prepared for that. You look at the defenses, guys, to me, this is where the game will be decided. This is the key for both teams. No doubt about it. West Virginia right now, they had a solid defense last year. They had a solid defense in 2019. It's solid again now. And that's something that Neil Brown is trying to instill out in Morgantown. Again, in the Big 12, it's a conference that is criticized for not playing defense. It's a conference that people view as only offense. If you can put together a semi-decent offense and a pretty solid defense, you can contend in the Big 12 every single year. And that is what Neil Brown is trying to do. The Mountaineers allowed just 20.4 points per game this year, just 297.2 total yards per game. So they are under that 300-yard mark that we always talk about. The key number you're looking at right now for West Virginia, though, they're allowing 126.2 rushing yards per game. Not a bad mark at all. Not a bad mark at all. Question is, can they do that to Army? If you hold Army to 126, I'd say even 150 rushing yards, I think you're going to win this game. I really do. But can they do that? West Virginia will be without their leading tackler in Tony Fields at linebacker. He's choosing to opt out in preparation for the NFL draft. So you're already losing a key member of your front seven. But the good thing that West Virginia does have going for them is they've forced 12 turnovers so far this year. They have forced 12 turnovers this year, and they've allowed just 3 100-yard rushers in 2020. 2 of those coming in one game to Oklahoma State, Chuba Hubbard and L.D. Brown. So those 2 guys rushed for 100 yards in a single game, and that counts for 2 of the 3 that West Virginia has allowed in 2020. So the rushing defense is very stout. They know how to take the ball away. You don't really have to worry too much about the pass against Army. So I believe Neil Brown will have a solid game plan in place to, again, hold Army well below their season average when it comes to rushing yards. You look at the Black Knights. They have a fantastic defense as well. I mean, it's unreal, really, how well they've been playing defense in 2020. They've allowed just 14 points per game, 2 touchdowns per game, 271.1 total yards per game. So well under that 300-yard mark that we are always talking about. You look at their key numbers. 121.2 rushing yards per game they're allowing. 149.9 passing yards per game they're allowing. And that number sounds great. Tell me they're holding opponents to under 150 passing yards? Yes, but let's keep in mind that 7 of the 11 opponents that Army has faced this year have been either run-heavy teams or FCS opponents. And by run-heavy, we're talking teams like Air Force, Navy, Georgia Southern, all those teams running the triple option, Texas San Antonio, UTSA, running with Sincere McCormick, more of a run-heavy team. All of those guys, plus some FCS opponents, they haven't had to throw the ball that much. And their defense hasn't really been tested that much, at least in their secondary. The one thing the Army has done well, though, is they do know how to take the ball away. Very similar to West Virginia. They have forced 18 turnovers, 13 interceptions. So when teams have thrown the ball, they've done pretty well. Army hasn't necessarily struggled too much against teams that have thrown the ball. Only they have forced 13 interceptions. So the secondary, while maybe haven't been tested as much, they're still extremely solid. 13 interceptions on the year for the Black Knights. Something that Jarrett Dagey, a guy who's thrown just 3 interceptions all year long, something that he has to certainly be careful of. So let's look at the keys to the game, guys. What's going to be the keys to the game for West Virginia and Army down in Memphis? Again, so much on the line. The first bowl appearance for Neil Brown at West Virginia. You obviously want to win your first one. Army looking for their 3rd 10-win season in the last 4 years. And again, trying to prove to everybody they deserved a bowl spot. No doubt in my mind, sitting at 9-2, champions of the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy, no doubt in my mind they should have been in a bowl game. But because of all the tie-ins and all the money, Army was going to be left out had Tennessee not had COVID issues. So you look at the keys to the game. West Virginia, the first one for them, and really the only one for them, is you got to stack the box. I know you have to watch out for the pitches out left and right, out. He's trying to stretch the field. I get that. But you stack the box, you stop the run, you win the game because Army's not going to beat you through the air. But more specifically in stopping the run, for West Virginia to me is you've got to force 3 and outs. Or maybe you allow 1 first down, but you can't really allow Army to continue to pick up first downs, march down the field, and milk the clock. That's the biggest thing for me. Because if I'm West Virginia, I don't want every possession, every offensive possession, I don't want that to have to be a must-score drive. If we allow Army to take up 8 minutes and get a touchdown, and then we go 3 and out real quick, and then Army takes another 8 minutes and gets a field goal, so it's 10-0, we're going to be in trouble. So you got to make sure you're getting the ball back at a decent rate. You cannot allow Army to dominate the time of possession, which they probably will because they run the ball so much and milk that clock. But again, force some 3 and outs, force some quick stops, whether it's a turnover or just maybe one first down here and there, because you need the ball. You need to try to keep Army off the field, and when they're out there, you want to make sure that Army's not on the field for very long, because they will try to dominate the time of possession. They will try to force you to make every drive a must-score scenario. Army, their key is stopping the pass. Now again, we praised Army and their secondary. 13 interceptions on the year, allowing less than 150 passing yards per game. But remember, we did mention 7 of the 11 teams they've played have been run-heavy or FCS teams. The passing game is going to be the difference maker in this one for West Virginia. Jarrett Doege is going to make or break, I think, the game for the Mountaineers, because listen to this. In the 2 games that Army has played against solid quarterbacks, the 2 games that Army has played against semi-decent or above-average quarterbacks, they have struggled. First one, Cincinnati. They played Desmond Ridder, a Cincinnati team that is playing in the Peach Bowl, a New Year's Six bowl game against Georgia. Army only lost that game 24-10, but they allowed Desmond Ridder to throw for 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. Another game, Tulane. Army played Tulane and Michael Pratt, who continues to improve every single week despite Tulane losing their bowl game to Nevada. Michael Pratt in that game had 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. Army lost 38-12. So in the 2 games that Army played semi-decent or above-average quarterbacks, they got semi-torched through the air, and they lost those games by double digits. Blowout loss to Tulane, 14-point loss to Cincinnati, which is fairly respectable. But still, that's a concern. Even in their season finale against Air Force, a game that Army won 10-7, they allowed Air Force to throw for 107 yards and 1 touchdown. Air Force, we know, is similar to Army. They run the triple option. They don't throw the ball. And yet Army still allowed them to throw for a touchdown at over 100 yards. That's concerning to me. Yes, they did intercept Air Force 3 times, but still, the passing game for Air Force isn't that great to begin with. They're going to make some mistakes. I don't expect Jarrett Doege in West Virginia to make that many mistakes through the air. Again, he takes great care of the football. So Army's secondary, yes, 13 takeaways, that's awesome. Very good. But again, when they've played decent quarterbacks, they have struggled. And Jarrett Doege, I certainly would say, is a decent quarterback. I'd say he's maybe slightly above average right now. So at the end of the day, guys, you look at these 2 teams. The running game is going to be dominant, but the passing game is going to be the X factor for West Virginia. The defense, time of possession, going to be key for both teams as well. All those things combined, I am honing in on that last fact that we dropped, and that's the passing game and how Army has struggled a little bit against decent quarterbacks. And I think that's ultimately your difference maker here and why we are going to pick West Virginia to win the Liberty Bowl and finish the year at 6-4. I think this is a low-scoring game. I certainly think it's a defensive battle. But if I'm looking for a team that down the stretch, in crunch time, needs to move the ball, needs to move it quick, and needs to make the plays without many mistakes, it's going to be Doege and it's going to be West Virginia. They're going to be the team to do that. Obviously, they're more balanced. Army doesn't throw the football, so I don't even want to consider that. But the passing game is going to be key. Army has struggled against the pass in the last few games, certainly against Air Force and certainly again against better quarterbacks. I think they do it again here in the Liberty Bowl. So in a game that I do think is close, a game that I think comes down to the final minute, it's Jarrett Doege and West Virginia that get the job done. Army drops to 9-3. Nothing to frown about. You won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. You still got to play in the postseason. One they certainly deserved, but they're going to fall just short of their ultimate goal. While West Virginia is going to get this win and carry a lot of momentum into what could be a big 2021 for them. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and also make sure to check out everything down in the description below. We've got exclusive content for you, GE merchandise. We also have our Patreon account, our BetNow account, where you can get our promo code there to get some exclusive offers on their site. We have our Against the Spread picks for every single bowl game on our website, thegridironexpert.com. and of course our weekly newsletter on our website, thegridironexpert.com. So make sure to go check all of those things out right down there in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.